I have a habit of knowing what you're going to say before you say it. Like knowing where things are going and wanting to finish somebody's sentences or, jump to the conclusion while somebody is trying to methodically tell me something. Like I want to get to the end of it because I already know where it's going a lot of the time. And so as she was going through one of the tests, she was walking through what the instructions were, and I jumped to the answer. And she wrote down a note and she's like, I just wrote down that you're impulsive. And I was like, that's impulsive? Welcome to Divergent Paths, the podcast where we explore the real, lived experiences of neurodivergent minds. I'm Dr. Regina McMenomy, PhD, not MD, and this is not medical advice, but it is a conversation about how our brains work. Today, my co-host Russ and I are diving into impulsivity, and not just the jump off a cliff kind. We're talking about the subtle ways it shows up, cutting someone off mid-sentence or firing off that text before you've even thought it through. And while you're listening, remember you can dig deeper into this topic and the other topics we discuss by subscribing to my free newsletter at divergentpathsconsulting.com. So stay tuned, and thanks for listening to Divergent Paths.
Okay, so you know how there's always something like you're trying to figure out what to watch on all the different streaming services.
Yeah.
There's so many things out there. It's like,
Yes.
What do I watch?
Yeah.
So I was trying to solve for that. And instead of deciding every single night, what do we watch? I decided, what if we rewatched Sex and the City?
Oh.
From the beginning.
Okay.
Love the show Sex and the City. And, it's kind of fun to watch it and, think about the 90s and it's
Carrie 100% undiagnosed ADHD.
Totally, right?
Yes.
Well, so that's the thing. She's so okay. Now, the other reason why I wanted to watch the show was because there's the final season of the it's called Just Like That or something, Just Like That. And it's the final season of Sex and the City. So the Carrie Bradshaw character is done after this, essentially, right? So it's kind of interesting to watch the old and then watch the new. So I rewatched all 7 seasons of Sex and the City, and now I'm watching the third and final of the Just Like That. And what's interesting is, and I don't want to do any spoilers just in case somebody's going to watch it and they haven't yet, but she does something that's very it's okay. Well, let's go back to the old show first. She's always buying expensive shoes. Right? Those Manolo Blahniks or whatever, right? Instead of paying for rent, I don't know how she has the lifestyle she has, but she does.
Yep.
Right. She just decides randomly to fly to Paris for this relationship that she has with some person, and then randomly just decides to come back. So the old Carrie was very impulsive versus this new thing. She did something that wasn't very impulsive, although I haven't seen the last 2 episodes. So maybe it will turn into be more of Carrie impulsivity.
Maybe,
You said that Carrie's clearly that character has ADHD.
Yeah.
Our topic now is impulsivity. And as soon as you talked about impulsivity, or as soon as I saw it in the notes, I'm like, I've been seeing this every night for the last 2 months or whatever it is.
Right.
And so I had to bring up Carrie as the example here, but let's talk about it a little bit. Let's, jump into the definition. What is it?
Well, generally, when we think about impulsivity, we think about a lot of what you just mentioned with Carrie's character in Sex and the City. We think of the base definition of impulsivity is a tendency to act quickly without thinking about consequences, about thinking about, what could happen, what impact it's going to have, and, reduced control from your brain's frontal cortex, where it wants, so it acts.
Right.
And that would very much be,
right. Oh,
Carrie.
100% her.
What we see with the shoes, at least in the, I haven't watched the new season, so I don't know how she evolves, but her original for sure.
Or what we see in the old days there with Big, right? She just randomly, she has this urge to go see him. So she just does it. She just shows up and really not thinking about the consequences. So she's not like stopping herself. So pausing between an urge and an action, like just, no, she's not doing that.
Yeah. And this is with neurodivergence, this is something that happens with, prefrontal cortexes, with, brains and frontal lobes that don't have rigid, or I don't want to say rigid, more developed processes for executive functions and for taking that pause and taking that time to kind of think through the consequences and think through, like, what does this mean and what impact is this going to have on, my finances, on my relationship? Does this person actually want me, like, showing up at their doorstep unannounced? Like, what is,
Okay, now you've got me thinking too. And not to turn this into a Sex and the City review, but really all the characters, aren't they? Like, when you think about Samantha, I mean, come on, every relationship just going from person to person and not thinking about the consequences or the big things that she would state in public, things like that.
Right.
So
yeah. And with Samantha in particular, there is that level of emotional immaturity, right? And that's one of the reasons why I think her character shies away from any sort of longer term relationships and doesn't like settle into those, because she wants what she wants when she wants it, and she doesn't want to have to deal with the complications of developing emotional maturity. And if I remember, I haven't watched the show in, since it came out an embarrassingly long amount of time ago, but I think she develops some emotional maturity in the last seasons, where she kind of develops into a longer relationship with somebody. They all kind of do. I would say that Charlotte is more autistic presenting, and I would say the same with Miranda. And I would say that Carrie and Samantha are both a little heavier on kind of ADHD presentations.
Well, I mean, I could argue Miranda as well, but again, we're getting into Sex and the City.
I don't want this to be a whole show about this. I really do, because this is a really important topic, and I really want to talk about this.
Could we do a second show on Sex and the City?
We can do a show on Sex and the City if you want to do. Okay. We can do a show on like pop culture presentations of ADHD. We should do a whole series on that at some point. Yeah, that would be great.
I love it. Yeah. So it is an important topic because impulsivity, like it can be.
It is.
It can be very problematic.
It can be very problematic, and it is one of the stereotypical things when we think of ADHD. One of the first things people will say is you're impulsive, or somebody who has ADHD is impulsive, and can't focus or whatnot. But impulsivity definitely ranks up there in the first things that people think about for, at least for ADHD. I don't know if people, not all the autistic profiles have impulsivity, some, but they do. It's definitely present there too. So, I want to make sure we handle this with a level of subtlety, because when I got my diagnosis, when I was going through my assessment, one of the things I really appreciated in how they handled the assessment was they weren't just looking at like how I did on like the tests, like they were taking in your behavior in the environment as well. So here's an example of when the assessor pointed out to me that I was being impulsive. So I have a habit of knowing what you're going to say before you say it. Like knowing where things are going and wanting to like finish somebody's sentences, or, jump to the conclusion while somebody is trying to like methodically tell me something. Like I want to get to the end of it because I already know where it's going a lot of the time. And so as she was going through one of the tests, she was walking through what the instructions were, and I jumped to the answer as she was in the explanation of how to do it, I jumped to the answer, and she wrote down a note and she's like, I just wrote down that you're impulsive. And I was like, that's impulsive? What are you, what? I do things like that all the time. Like I couldn't help it. Then I couldn't, that time I couldn't help it. I never, ever would have considered that, knowing, and like, I just gestured to, like, I knew what the answer was. And she's like, that's impulsive. Like you didn't stop until I was done with the instructions. You jumped to it. And that's, being impulsive. And I'm like, and that shook me, and I left and I was like, wow. And then I started paying attention to some of these sort of smaller, more, subtle ways that you can be impulsive. Because it's not just I blew all of the money on my credit card on fancy shoes. It's not I went on Amazon and I bought some, all of the, materials to start a new craft that I have no experience in because my dopamine is like low and I needed a charge. It's not just that. It is these small, like, wanting to interrupt someone and like wanting to like do, having to send that message at 2:00 in the morning because you cannot not send it. Not thinking about the fact that
I sort of wonder though, like, is that impulsivity? Like, because, okay, so somebody could like clearly just be over explaining something to you.
Sure.
Right? Like they just like, this happens to me all the time, but maybe we're just going to diagnose me here. But somebody will explain something to me, right? Like, let's say I'll say something,
right.
The car is red.
Right.
Okay. The person will then talk about why the car is red, how the paint in the car, like,
right.
They're
what it is that makes it look red or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's almost like, that whole, the saying of, I asked what time it is and they told me how the clock was made. Right. Like that's not what we want, not the information that we're looking for.
Right.
So isn't it sometimes though that you are just, I don't know. I just get annoyed.
Just trying to push the conversation along. Well,
right.
Yeah. Okay. But okay. If impulsive spending is not thinking about the impact that purchase is going to have on your finances, when you want to interrupt or cut that person off as they are speaking, you are not thinking about the consequences of cutting them off while they're speaking on that person's experience of talking to you. Right?
Okay.
Whereas if you took a beat and you thought, oh, it could be this person is fascinated with paint colors in cars and has a special interest in it, and you have just lit up something that is really special and really important to them, and they really want to explain it to you. And if you don't want to hear that because that's not the conversation you were having in your head and you cut them off, then that can have a similar consequence as not thinking through what buying the shoes is going to have on your financial outcome.
I'm trying to think of when Miranda and Charlotte did this. I'm sorry. Different show.
To bring it back to it.
No, but see, the thing is, in a way, I'm realizing I was talking about Sex and the City in the beginning because it's been an interest now for the last 6 months. It's something that I've been doing. And then I was like, oh, we got to do a whole show on this. And you're like, no, we got to talk about impulsivity. So I'm pointing that out.
Yes. Because
we sort of doing that, right?
This is exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. And like we craft the shows together. Like I generally come with the topics, but like we're building the Divergent Paths podcast together. And I will take your episode topics into consideration. We can build shows around things you want to do. That's going to be a thing. But it is interesting that you're right. Like you pulled on something, and that's what a lot of this does. Like a lot of their show notes, we're working from a structure, I'm hoping that that's obvious to people, but we don't have the details down about what we're going to talk about. Like we talked about Ghostbusters.
We did.
Or emotional contagion. And you were really excited to talk about that. And it was really meaningful because I have had listeners come back and tell me like, that image just really helped me understand that concept.
Nice.
So like, it's great. Like that's the spontaneity and the improv that we both bring to this is part of what we build on. But that's another thing, like improv is very much an impulse-based medium, right? Like it is all about just being in the moment and saying the thing. Like that's yes. And like, is largely can be impulsive.
And thinking about this in improv and the statements that I made before there, in improv, like jumping in before your partner's done, like creating the scene can really actually just like more like kill the scene.
Yep.
I guess in real life, the same sort of thing is happening, right? We're sort of killing the conversation. You're not learning about the paint color and the painting process. You're not taking that opportunity to learn about it because you're being impulsive and wanting to
exactly. And you can invalidate someone's experience that way. Like, I think about my time as a parent, like, paying attention and learning and having those moments where my child wants to show me what they know, right? And if I'm making dinner, if I'm stressed, if I'm this and that, like all of these other things that could be happening, all of this other stuff that could be going on, if I'm not able to stop and take the moment and be able to put myself in a space where I can stop and take that information, and that damages my relationship with her. Right. And think about like your romantic or your intimate relationships that you have, even your friendships. If you are constantly not wanting to hear about someone's thing that they're passionate about because it's not, like I said, it's not the conversation you wanted to have, or it's not the moment where you have the space for it, that wears down. And over time, like this happened to me a lot. Like I have talked about this in like previous romantic relationships where, one of my previous partners said to me, I would explain the same thing multiple times in different ways because I was doing an external processing of, I need to get this out so I can look at it from every different direction. And he would get frustrated and he would say, if you continue explaining this to me, I'm going to lose my mind. And that damaged my self-esteem. It hurt me. It hurt our relationship. And what I ended up doing was not processing with him anymore, which meant that I no longer shared things. I no longer talked to him about things. And it, eventually completely eroded the relationship. So taking that beat and stopping and letting yourself think about what is it about this that is either making me want to interrupt because it's not the conversation I want to be having, and also taking a beat allows you to think about where is this person coming from and why are they sharing this at this moment, as opposed to you just sort of impulsively running roughshod over them.
Isn't this about the brakes on the brain not really firing, like not really hitting at the same time?
Yeah, like that's one of the things about it. It's like, speaking from my personal experience, finally kind of understanding that, I can be impulsive helped me recognize some bad patterns that I had in my life. But one of the great things about it was like starting to recognize this isn't a character flaw. This is just how your brain works. And your brain doesn't have the capacity to put the brakes on, because if you're constantly seeking dopamine, you're constantly wanting to run forward. Like, the joke or the stereotype of like, it's, wanting to jump out of a plane or being dopamine seeking means you want to work in the ER or you want to be a paramedic or, things like this, things that are fast moving, that's kind of our overarching idea of what impulsivity for people with ADHD sounds like. But, it is just as much an emotional impulsivity. It's having a fast reaction to you being triggered. It's having a sensory overload as a catalyst. Like, I can't remember if we've talked about this. Have we talked about fork theory?
Fork theory.
Fork theory. Yeah. Like stick a fork in me, I'm done, like that phrase, that phrase.
Oh, okay. I think we did mention that.
I think we talked about it before. Like you can only take so many forks.
Right.
That's what sensory experiences are like for me. Like if it gets to a point where like the tag in my shirt, I can wear certain clothes for a certain amount of time. And then if it gets irritating to me, I have to change, my clothes for XYZ reasons, sensory reasons. And, there's a meme about fork theory about you can only take so many forks, at one time. And then you have to alleviate some of the forks in order to be able to start, processing. So sensory overload is like that. Sensory overload can make you more impulsive. If I have a lot of auditory sensitivity. So if I'm in an environment where there's a lot of noise that I cannot control the noise, like I can't turn the music off or something like that, I will end up more likely to be short-tempered with people because like my brain is trying to take in too much information because there's too much noise for it. And that's when I will be snippy a lot of times.
So the snippiness, that could also be that's impulsivity.
Yeah. If you're snippy and you're short-tempered sometimes, I mean, a lot of times that is also, emotional reactions to things as well, to emotional triggers and other things. But yeah.
Right. It's carrying on this improv thing, right? Like I wrote down the rush. I just wrote down the rush,
right?
From improv, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's where the dopamine comes in, right?
Yeah.
Is the rush of just the nerves doing it, the laughs that you get, or even like one of my best scenes ever. I got booze because I was a bad guy, and it was great.
Right.
It was almost a better feeling than the
cheering.
laughs. But
yeah.
That is, you mentioned dopamine earlier. Let's get into that a little bit more.
Right. The impulsivity is dopamine seeking. Like to go back to the example of my assessment, like it was a charge for me to know. I knew what the outcome was of the instructions she was giving me before she finished them. Like that's a dopamine hit. Like I got this, that sense that, that's a little rush. We've talked before about like screens and how screens can be difficult to manage when you have neurodivergence, right? Every time a ding goes off on your phone, you get a little bit of serotonin, a little bit of dopamine. You get, oh, what is this? Oh, what is that message? Oh, what is it? Oh, what, ooh, yeah. Ooh, I got a thing. Ooh, somebody liked my post. Oh, oh, somebody commented. Like all
right.
All of it.
All right. So, one of the things I was talking with somebody the other day about, they just, they offered to buy somebody's business. They went in for a sales thing, and they realized that the person was retiring, and instead of, buying product from them, they offered to buy the business.
Wow.
And I thought that, well, that's sort of impulsive.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. But he said, we're interested in buying your business. I would like to, you're a company that we want to blah, 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 blah. Goes through the whole deal. And he says, let's talk again in 3 days.
Yes.
So, and see if we're both still interested. I thought that that was the impulsivity, but then he figured it out.
Coming up with the idea.
And paused between
that is the perfect
urge
pause.
and the action, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And is that, so that's one technique. What are some other techniques?
That is 100% like I would say that is probably one of the top.
Right.
One of the top approaches to helping, mitigate the damage of your impulsivity. A good pause to make if you tend to have an impulsive spending habit. One of the strategies that a friend of mine introduced me to was to put, like, if it's late at night and you open your Amazon, ill-advised, open your Amazon, or you're on TikTok or YouTube Shorts or something and somebody's advertising something, put it in your cart and don't buy it then. Like, don't set I don't make Amazon purchases after 10 o'clock at night rule for yourself. And come back to it the next day. And a couple of things will happen with that in terms of like TikTok. Often the like flash sales will be over in the morning, and whatever looked like it was $3 is now 20 or whatever. Because there's always like hidden charges and stuff in TikTok. Often hidden charges. But that gives you the time to go back when you have a fresh, you're being tired is also can contribute to impulsivity too. So being fatigued, because being fatigued ends up compromising your executive functioning. So,
Right.
give yourself a time. So that's a good way if you have a spending habit to do that too. One of the things that is really good is to channel your impulsivity into like creative spaces, like you've done with the improv, even though with improv, you do have to have some impulse control, like you said, to not step on like other people you're doing improv with. Right.
Right.
But having creative spaces that you can, just let yourself be impulsive. If you, draw or paint or, whatever else, just lean into the impulsivity in spaces where the outcomes aren't as, I don't want to say bad because it's not necessarily bad, but not as big, like,
Right.
where the stakes aren't quite as high as it might be with you deciding to buy somebody's business when you went in to talk to them about.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, speaking of big, let's talk about Sex and the City. No. As soon as I heard big, it just cued it again. I'm trying not to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tame that impulsivity there.
Yeah.
So is there times where so I'm trying to tame it right now, but is there times where maybe
it can
you
be
shouldn't tame it?
Like sometimes you can make that snap decision and it will be the right choice.
Right.
There are times when you need that quick drive, when you need to listen to your instincts, when, those are the right ways to go. And it's, it's a hard thing to balance. Like it's a hard
that's
thing
what I was going to say.
like,
Like, how do you balance it?
yeah, you have to figure out where it's more appropriate and where it's, less. Like it's really important to start to understand that this is a nuanced thing. Like it's not always bad. It's not always good. It's and that's essentially where the nuance comes from, right? Like it is it is a thing. Like there could be, like maybe it is you put something in your cart and you decide not to buy it until the next morning. I had this happen where I was going to buy a little set of drawers for my closet that match a set that I already have in there. And I had put the item in my cart one night, and I did my standard. It was after 10. So I was thinking, at that time I was kind of focused on how my closet was annoying and I needed more space for something else. And I really liked the system I had set up with this other set of drawers. So I was going to buy it, and I waited until the next morning, and now it's out of stock. And it's been 6 months and it's still out of stock. And I don't think I'm getting it at this point. So yeah, that's not a big thing. It's kind of annoying because I wanted a matching one. I can get one that doesn't match and it'll be a different color and blah, blah, blah. And it's my closet and it doesn't really matter, but I really wanted it to match. And, so I did lose out on that, and I did miss out on that because it's just not available anymore. So, there are times when it can end up not being that great.
Right. Well, and I mean, I don't know how much the drawers were, but I wouldn't think that would be it wouldn't be very reckless, I guess, to buy it in that case.
If I would have bought it, yeah. If I would have bought it, it was, I don't know, I think it was under $50 for them. It was like $40 or something. It wasn't, hugely expensive. It's just a small set of drawers. But I did want to start practicing this. It's important for me to be putting, the things that I'm suggesting on the show are things that I'm doing in real life to help myself manage my own ADHD. And there are ways I'm trying to teach, my small human as well. So.
Right. Yeah. I had a friend too. He impulsively wanted to buy some shoes. And they were like for the San Francisco Giants, like these orange and black like shoes that were customized.
Branded shoes,
like, these are really cool. So he orders them. But because he did this late at night and saw this, deal and whatever, and they were expensive, shows up at work. I see these, you can't miss them, these black and orange shoes.
Right.
And they say like Tim on the background or something like that. I'm like, what? It's like, well, I ordered these and I didn't realize that you can customize them and put your name on the back. He's walking around with whatever the default name is on the shoes because he was impulsive and reckless on that one. And, yeah. But because they were expensive, he's just wearing them. And it's sort of this, I guess, this thing of shame of like, okay, well, I got to explain the story to somebody every time I wear these shoes.
Every time somebody knows me, sees them.
Yeah.
Well, it would be funny too if like somebody sees them wearing them who doesn't know him and they start calling out his name, hey Tim, and he's like, what?
For me, I was like, who gets shoes with their name on them? Like,
I mean, I have had that thought through this. I'm like, but why?
Yeah. So sometimes it pays to think through things a little bit and pause.
Yeah, it does, and to make sure you look at all the fields you need to fill in when you're ordering something. Totally. I had that happen where I subscribed to I'm trying to think, like a workout app or whatever, and every time you like do a new subscription, you have a chance to get like a shirt or a t-shirt that goes along with it and just run across America. It helps you kind of like track your movement during each season. And the first time I ordered it, I didn't recognize that like you automatically got the shirt. And so I didn't pay attention to the size drop down.
Oops.
So I got an extra small. And I was like, well, this might fit my daughter.
Your cat now has a shirt.
My cat now has a shirt. It was pretty small. And yeah, I ended up having to just like get rid of it because I was like, well, is this going to work for me? But yeah, those things happen too.
Totally. And I mean, you can laugh about these things later, and there's things that where you can laugh about like those silly purchases, and then there's more serious things that obviously could happen that are not as funny.
Right.
And it's all of a sudden, Charlotte's married to Trey because she just said yes.
Right.
There's certain things you do have to hold back and think about. I wonder though, so is this more about like attention to things and like focusing on things, like to think about it more, or is this more about emotions, or is it just something else?
I think it's a combination of those things. I think it's learning to recognize your patterns around impulsivity. Because I think for me, like wanting to finish people's sentences when they pause is one that I've really worked very hard on, because I will fill in the blank. Like if you're trying to say something and I think I know already where you're going, I'm going to insert what I'm saying, which isn't always, or what I think you're saying, which isn't always right. And it also breaks the other person's concentration, because if they're taking that moment to pause, they're trying to formulate what they want to say, and they don't necessarily want me to finish. And I'm not always great. I still do this. But I do, and I have learned, especially with some of my closer friendships and relationships to not try to rush us toward the conclusion and let it be more of them figuring their way to things.
Yeah. And it's hard.
It is hard.
It's hard to do. I sort of wonder, when you have two people, neurodivergent people, one person is talking and they're about their special interests and they're going, on about it for a while. And then you've got another person that is, with the impulsivity thing, like the combination there. And I wonder, the relationship that you talked about earlier that ended, was that the case? And is that like kind of a recipe for problems later when you have
I would definitely say, in reflection on now that I understand this, that particular partner was very heavily ADHD. And I think I am more autistic leaning, and a lot of my need to externally process and talk through things also comes from a certain amount of insecurity I have about my own emotional life. Like, I feel like my emotions aren't always valid and my interpretation isn't always valid, which is why I have to look at everything from every angle. This is something I'm working on, actively working on in counseling right now. Being able to just say that my feelings about things are valid and just leaving it at that.
All right. Before I impulsively spend another 10 minutes talking about Sex in the City.
Before we go back to Sex in the City again.
And let's talk about the takeaways, the key takeaways, and where people can contact you.
The big takeaway I want, again, is to have some self-compassion about this, to recognize this isn't a character flaw. This isn't something that's wrong with you. This is just a different way your brain works. And as your brain is constantly seeking dopamine, it's going to seek it wherever it can. And sometimes that's in your Amazon shopping cart. And sometimes it is in telling somebody to, jump off a bridge when they've made you mad. And sometimes it's trying to finish somebody's sentence, before they've had time to think through what they want to say. There is a lot of nuance to impulsivity. There's a lot of nuance to this, and it's not inherently bad and it's not always good, but there is some middle ground between it. And I would love if some of our listeners wanted to share, is this insightful for you? Do you understand your impulsivity, or maybe the impulsivity of some people around you better after hearing some of these examples? This is a surprise to hear that impulsivity works this way. I would love it. Please subscribe to the podcast, share, hit me up on Instagram at DocLiz with 2 Z's, and sign up for my new newsletter at divergentpathsconsulting.com, where I will share deeper insights on some of these topics.
Hey, you write articles just like Carrie does.
I did write articles just like I always related to Carrie, because I wanted to be a writer, and now I am. And so, yes. Although I do not buy shoes like Carrie.
Okay.
Impulsivity isn't just about the big, bold moments. It's often the small, sneaky ones that have greater impact on our everyday lives. Impulsivity isn't always a flaw. Sometimes it's just your brain driving in the fast lane. If you'd like to practice some healthy impulsivity, head over to divergentpathsconsulting.com to sign up for my newsletter. That's where I unpack these topics in more detail, offer practical tools, and share some behind-the-scenes insights from the podcast. Until next time, regulate that nervous system, drink some water, go for a walk. You know your sensory system needs it.